Will a simple night on the town for Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson end up spelling complete and total devastation? Well, let's hop into the pages of Spider-Man vs. the Sinister 16, a brand new special one-shot courtesy of comic superstar J. Michael Straczynski, and find what happens next together, shall we? So then, as we join the book, we can already tell that this is out of continuity, or at least at a different point in history. Why? Not just because Mary Jane and Peter are together on a date, but also just because for one sweet moment in time, it doesn't look like the entire collective universe is just kicking Pete over and over again in the balls. You see, tonight everything is actually going his way. He was able to utilize his relationship with Iron Man Tony Stark to get him and Mary Jane a table at the most exclusive, most fancy, most well-reviewed French restaurant in all of New York City, the kind of place you gotta either know someone or be on a waiting list from here to eternity. Yet somehow, someway, the planets aligned and these two lovebirds got themselves a table, and surprise, surprise, they're not the only ones from the superhero community eating here tonight, as we see Thor and She-Hulk also pull up for a date. Well, Thor thinks it's a date, Jen says it isn't. Furthermore, Thor actually knows about Peter's double life as Spider-Man, but She-Hulk in this story doesn't, which leads to no end of awkwardness. Mary Jane even says, "Man, your life is complicated. You gotta make me a flashcard in the future so I know who knows your identity and who doesn't." One person who does seem to know about Peter is none other than Dr. Octopus. Yes, it seems that Otto Octavius is also here on a date tonight with a girl from high school named Constance, who I guess is not up on current events because she doesn't seem to know about his life as Ock. Most surprisingly, though, is that Otto is actually taking this date very seriously, and when Peter pulls him out into the alley later, he defends himself like any normal person would. What, I can't have dinner? What, I can't have a social life? I'm not actually breaking the law right now. Look, I tell you what, I'll stay out of your hair, you stay out of mine, and we'll both have a lovely evening. And had the whole thing ended there, they might very well have been able to have that nice evening, but wouldn't you know it, over the next few minutes, the entire restaurant ends up filling up with heroes and villains alike. You got the Inhuman royal family, Medusa and Black Bolt. Oh yeah, this is definitely out of continuity. X-Men royalty in Destiny and Mystique. Fresh new couples like Kingpin and Typhoid Mary, and even beloved classics like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, just to name a few. It seems that they all got the same email setting them up for tonight. Again, Peter is uncomfortable with all the muscle in this room right now, but the only thing that ends up truly pushing him over the edge is when Eddie Brock ends up showing up completely unattended. What? Look, I know I've been bad, I know I tried to kill you a bunch, but this place has been on my radar for a long time. I just want a nice night, and I know you want the same with Mary Jane. I promise I'll be good, I won't even talk, I'll just sit on my phone watching cat videos. Wait, do you think you're gonna be sitting at our table? No, you will not sit at our table, even if you didn't come with a date, Eddie. Now, what kind of culinary mastermind would put together this sort of event? Well, we're introduced to the man himself, Chef Renoir, and it seems that he subscribes to the whole Anthony Bourdain school of thought when it comes to cuisine and dining, mainly that good food is incredibly powerful, that it can bring people together from multiple walks of life, and even in its own way, usher in peace. Renoir hopes his food can be that good to broker peace between all of these heroes and villains, but in private, we see that there's actually way more to the story than what he's saying. Mainly that before tonight, he lost a ton of money betting on cryptocurrency, and he hopes that if he can get all these heroes and villains to fight in his restaurant, then he can cash in his insurance policy and make a run for it. His ever-loving assistant is supporting him in this endeavor that, let's face it, is crazy even by comic book standards, in hopes that maybe they can both run away together once everything is said and done. Back in the dining hall, Renoir tries to spill a glass of wine on the Kingpin, knowing that he's just the sort of hothead that could turn this tinderbox situation into a raging inferno. Thankfully, Doctor Strange is there to abracadabra the wine back into the glass, not only saving the day, but giving everyone dinner and a show. In fact, the dinner ends up going over great. Renoir might be a crook, but as a chef, he really truly is that guy. Just when it looks like his plan is going to be a bust, though, when everyone is going to go home happy, it's actually Eddie Brock, of all people, who ends up kicking things off by laughing too hard at cat videos on his phone. Some of the food ends up going into the face of the owl, and before you know it, the first chair gets thrown and a massive riot ends up taking a hold. What follows is a truly wonderful, multi-layered splash page featuring every character all at once. Not only is this a Where's Waldo-ian joy to behold, but it's also filled with some great jokes too. I particularly enjoy Mystique and Destiny not fighting and just drinking while everyone else is punching, or even She-Hulk punching Ty Titania and making a Mel Brooks Blazing Saddles reference. Bet you didn't think you'd read that when you picked up this issue today, huh? In the end, Peter is able to slip away, suit on up, and make it back in time to help the other heroes dispatch the villains, which is ultimately not that hard. A lot of them were actually serious about not wanting to fight, and even the likes of Dr. Octopus decided to leave early with his date to try and save her from any more secondhand embarrassment. Of course, after a superpowered melee of this size, the restaurant is an absolute mess from top to bottom, exactly what Chef Renoir wanted. What he could never have expected, though, is that on top of being super strong, She-Hulk also has some pretty muscular ears that she uses for listening and eavesdropping on their conversation. She knows that they plan to commit insurance fraud, and as an agent of the court, she already tipped off the police. It's the assistant who decides to try and get a better deal for herself, promising to give up Renoir in exchange for Jen being her lawyer. Now, as the comic comes to a close, we check back on in with MJ and Peter. Their fancy night of dining may have been ruined, but that still doesn't stop them from sharing a meal together, just a hot dog and a pretzel. As they watch the sun rise together, Mary Jane thinks that maybe she was being a little dumb or a little naive to actually believe Renoir when he said that food had the transformative ability to bring so many different people together, if only for a night. Peter, always the optimist, well, when J. Michael Straczynski writes him at least, says that she was mistaken, but she wasn't wrong. Spidey has been on this job just long enough to know exactly how quickly the worm can turn. Good guys can break bad, and bad guys can show you the good that was always in them. And it's true, before everything went to hell in the restaurant, everything was actually pretty nice. And that maybe, just maybe, they should keep striving for positive nights like that. The book also decides to go out on a little bit of a meta note too, with MJ saying to Peter that she loves him, Peter saying it back, and then him closing by saying it's nice when that happens, isn't it? And you know what? I very much agree. And so that was Spider-Man vs. the Sinister 16, and oh man, whatever you thought this issue was going to be, I can promise you for the better that it definitely wasn't. According to an interview from the back of the issue, apparently Straczynski had been sitting on the plot of this story for a long time, but never exactly knew where to fit it into any of his ongoing books. And I gotta say, as a longtime comic reader who's pretty damn disillusioned with what's going on in the main 616 Spider-Man book right now, this was a wonderfully light, bright reprieve from everything I haven't been enjoying. And no, it's not just because Peter and MJ are together. I mean, that certainly helps, but it's nice to see a Spider-Man with a pep in his step, with a zeal, with a lust for life we don't normally get to see anymore. I really like the very humanistic approach to all the characters in this story. They might be gods and monsters, crime bosses and aliens, but at the end of the day, everyone has to eat, and it's one of the few things that brings us all together. The art's really strong too, and that one particular splash page is something I know I'm going to be remembering for a very long time. Overall, I would give this one an 8 out of 10. This one-off continues to prove my theory that the best Peter Parker Spider-Man stories either don't take place in continuity, or at the very least don't take place in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man anymore. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow, and help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye bye.